Okay, welcome everybody back to Steve Talks Boxing X, STBX, where we talk real boxing with real boxing fans. And this week's show, we're going to be talking about this weekend's fight in Adam Azim against Ohara Davies at the Copper Box Arena, and also some of the undercard fighters as well. And I'm pleased to say joining me this week is Ra Hokam. Thanks for coming on, Ra.
Pleasure's all mine. You know how much I love talking boxing.
Yep, it's a great talking point we've got, and a great fight, hopefully. First question to you: what the hell happened to Davies in that fight, in his last fight against Barroso?
I think what happened was what Ohara himself said. Quite, he was actually quite sensible in his analysis of what went wrong. He made a fundamental technical error, getting overexcited on his big opportunity. He said he overreached, and against that level of opposition with that sort of power, he got punished harshly. And it just goes to show the importance of really being well schooled technically, which someone like Barroso probably has been.
Yeah. Did you expect that to happen though in the first round though? Did you?
No. I mean, we've never seen Ohara in serious trouble that way. Yeah, he's been dropped a couple of times, I think, by Josh Taylor. When he himself was a lot more inexperienced. I think what he's been through in his career so far, I thought he would keep his head and not make that mistake and get caught cold by a big puncher. I did not expect that, but it's a lesson to everyone. On your big night, you just cannot afford to freeze.
Afford to mess up. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. To quote Davis on this one, he quoted that this is the stupidest move you could have made to this fight. What kind of threat would you say Davis is at 32 now?
For an upcoming prospect who's very untested, I still think a serious threat, because for whatever O'Hara's flaws might be at the top level, one thing's for sure, his power is still for real. Top level guys like Josh Taylor have admitted as much, that whatever his technical flaws are, believe you me, his punching power is world class, and we've seen him lay people out. He really does have serious punching power.
Would you say Zim's chin hasn't been tested as well? Would you say that's a talking point?
It hasn't been tested. A lot of our media colleagues have actually said it must be because he's glass-jawed. Yeah, that's why they're protecting him.
Really?
I think no. Look, I mean, when do 20-something-year-old prospects ever get put in with top-level punchers? They don't. Yeah, it's not just ones who have suspect chins. Ideally, if you're moving a fighter correctly, you won't put them in with a top-level puncher until they're quite ready for it. So no, I don't think it necessarily means his chin isn't up to speed, but it hasn't been tested in live competition like that. And it's worth remembering Azim had very little senior amateur career, so there's going to be a big difference. But that first time you get hit by a real puncher in them 8-ounce or 10-ounce gloves, it will be a shock to the system. But he's got a great coach in Shane McGuigan, who must be confident that he's seen enough from Azim now to risk him.
To risk it. How disappointed are you? Obviously, they were lining up Harlan Newbank, and that didn't materialise. Even Dalton Smith was chucked around. How disappointed you are we're not seeing that fight or them fights?
How disappointed? Not at all.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, it weren't a fight that I think any of us had, in mind. The big disappointment was, of course, the Dalton Smith fight didn't happen. And in the absence of that, I don't think I'd heard any of us as fans talking about Harlem Newbank as a potential, good test or fight for him. So
it's got the Newbank name to it, though, hasn't it? And it's a selling point. That's the way I saw it.
Yeah,
I suppose so.
I mean, if the Newbank name was that significant, Harlem's career would be a lot further ahead than it currently is. So I don't think that the Newbank name, I don't think it has as much weight as people think. So
yeah.
So, I didn't hear of any disappointment from us, the fans in the media, when this fight fell through. So no.
Not too disappointed. What will this be? Adam's toughest opponent to date? Would you say?
Will it be? I mean, it had the potential to be. Again, in terms of the technicalities of it, Ohara is another of these guys that started very late, but has been able to get as far as he has because of exceptional athletic and natural physical gifts, in particular the punching power, as we mentioned. So it can go one of two ways. If those physical traits are he's still able to bring them to bear, i.e., get Azim to feel something he's never felt before, it will be. But then if he isn't, if Azim's edging or considerable edge in speed, if that pays off, I mean, if that's significant and he's not able to land anything, then it has the potential to be quite routine. Because punching power is all well and good, but the delivery system is actually more important, higher the level.
You've got to land the shots, ain't you, really? So
exactly. I mean, on paper, it's the most dangerous fight he's had for sure, because of that power that Ohara brings. Will it be the hardest? I'm going to go yes. I think it will be. I think Ohara still has a lot left in him, and I still think he's motivated to try and get back to some sort of title contention.
Level. They both trained together at the Peacock gym, but I gathered they've never sparred, so they kind of know each other a bit. Would this make any difference, do you think?
No. I mean, just because you've seen each other, and presumably back then Azim would have been a kid.
Yeah.
So there is no way. I don't think there's no way Ohara would have
even taken note maybe of him being there.
I mean, he'd have just been, another admiring kid. That's it's not going to be a factor at all, I don't think.
Sure. At 22 years old, is Azim where you would like him to be career-wise at the moment, would you say?
You know what? I would say if you are to filter out all the noise coming from the promoter about him, I would say yes. A lot of the disappointment is based on the way Boxer clearly sort of hyped him up as their next big star. All the the shenanigans around winning the European title and then vacating it, the whole manner in which they sort of messed Matchroom around obviously has brought a lot of heat to Azim, which if he was moved better, he wouldn't have warranted this sort of heat. But in terms of actually how he's developed, the level he's at, given the division he's fighting in, I would have to say his position is, I'd say it's more or less on course, because you got to remember, if he clearly weren't ready even for European or fringe world level, which is why he didn't fight Dalton Smith. There's no point moving too quick in a division where, as Ohara himself found, you can get punished pretty brutally until you've ironed out any flaws. So
he's got time, isn't he? He's got time.
He's got time. So at 22, and given the division he's in, his position's fine.
Sure. You touched on this just on your last answer to my question, but how much pressure do you think there is on Azim to become this household name for boxer like a Prince Nazim or AJ? You know, like make him into a pay-per-view star.
Yeah, it is quite a lot of pressure, isn't it? But then, do we see any signs of that pressure telling on him? Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, Azim is very understated when you speak to him, so it's difficult to actually try and glean anything from him in that sense. His dad has sort of groomed him from a young age to be a star, so I'm inclined to think that the pressure probably doesn't bother him so much as it's bothering his promoter.
Really? So maybe the pressure's more on Ben's side than it is Adam's side. So.
Yeah, because Adam's he's not much of a talker. It's not like I mean, we saw at the weekend, say someone like Ben Whittaker, who does a lot of talking himself, and then when he fails to deliver, then that comes back on him. But because Adam he barely talks himself. Yeah, I'm not convinced he's that bothered about all the talk from the promoters and around him. Yeah.
This is the only second outing for Azim this year due to injury. Do you think them injuries are anything to worry about at this stage?
No, not at his age. At 22, those injuries will heal a lot better than say at 32. So, of course, it's not ideal. No one wants large periods of inactivity, and
you want to be active, don't you? Really, at this stage.
Yeah, I think the only thing you'd be concerned about is I've always been a believer. A lot of the learning is done when you're young on that, on that rise up. That's why it's important you get the right fights at the right time, ones that you can learn from. Because as me and you know, when you get past a certain age, it's difficult to learn new things. So if he's going to be actually learning new things, in terms of the technicalities, the tactical side of things, managing rounds, all of that sort of stuff. You want to get that incrementally learned whilst you're still young and your mind's still agile. So that would be my only concern. But like I said, he's 22. Still think he's got a good few years of learning ahead of him.
Before, sure. What did you make of that performance against Paulson, which ended in round 5?
By the standards that we had come to expect, it was a bit underwhelming. So his last couple of fights, people have started to wonder, well, is he really that much of a puncher? Probably won't be at the top level. I mean, at this level, can clearly still hurt people, but can he take people out? It seems like as he's gone up the levels, he's not been. But again, as we said, the higher the levels, more important than just the brute force is the delivery. Getting the timing, the positioning, all of that, and again, that stuff he can still learn. And I'm sure, again, with Shane McGuigan in his corner, working with him, I'm sure that is something they'll be working on. So I'm certainly not going to write him off because of a flat performance. I mean, virtually every great fighter in history has had their flat performances on the come up. In fact, you're more suspicious of the guy that does blow out 20 fights in a row. Because you think, well, what have they learned? So,
but as long as you learn from it, then you will progress, won't you, and move on. You spoke about Adam's punch power there. How do you rate that at the moment? If you have to give it a 1 out of 10, 10 being the hard hitter, how would you rate that?
So if we're going to say he's at European level, I'd say at European level he's probably about a 7, solid 7. But up at world level, it'll probably only be a 6 based on what we've seen. But again, there can be mitigating circumstances. Like I said, if he went into his last couple of fights with an injury, couldn't get the punches off, properly, there could be factors like that. But based on just on what we'd see, I'd say it's only about a 7 at the moment.
Sure. Do you think Adam Azim could be a world champion?
He could be.
I know it's a bit of a broad question, and we got.
Yeah, I mean, do you mean at any point in his career? Or are you
any point. Yeah, any point.
Yeah, at any point in his career, yes. Like right now, 140 is so stacked that if they moved him too quickly, I think he'd come a cropper. But these things can change. Within a couple of years, a particular division that was once stacked, fight a lot of fighters.
Yeah,
they drop off, they move up in weight, or some retire, etc., etc. And of course, if the competition's really high, a lot of these guys will be taking a lot of, they'll be putting miles on each other's clocks, if you get me. So
yeah, more battle.
I think he will require
really. So
yeah, exactly. So he'll require managing correctly to get there. But yeah, I think he can.
Sure. And going on to the fight itself, how do you see the fight going? I don't want your prediction just yet, just the way how you see the fight going.
I think Ohara will be somewhat cautious after what happened last time out. So I think that'll be playing on his mind. I think the first couple of rounds, he'll be keeping it tight, let Azim sort of get his pot shot off with his fast hands and try and find some opening. I think he might maybe maybe sometime after the third round look to stick it on Adam for the first time, and he'll do it sporadically because explosive athletes, they're only effective sporadically. That's just the way explosive athletes are. But I do think at some point, maybe around the middle rounds, he will give Azim his first taste of serious power, and how Azim deals with that will tell us a lot about where he is and maybe even how far he can go. Because as you said, whatever Ohara's flaws are, the punching power is real. So I do see Azim maybe getting buzzed or maybe for the first time in his career. He might even have to come through a crisis. And that's where Shane McGuigan's, will be worth his weight in gold if it gets him through that. So I think he might have some rocky moments in the mid and late rounds before he settles back into using his superior hand speed to get him out of trouble. So
I think, well, from my point of view, I wouldn't mind seeing that. I wouldn't mind seeing him being tested, being hit with some decent power shots and see how he reacts. Because, like I said, it's all a learning process for him now. So I wouldn't mind seeing that. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but from the fans' point of view, it'd be a good test, wouldn't it?
Yeah, look, serious fans like ourselves, we're not going to hate on a kid or even an established fighter for getting hurt, dropped, stopped, even KO'd. It happens in this sport. If you're going to fight proper competitive fights, that's what's meant to happen. Yeah, fighters you're not meant to go through your career knocking people over without any resistance. That's what competitive boxing's meant to be. So yeah, sooner or later he's going to need it. And I guess they chose Ohara because they think, although he brings that danger, he's lacking enough in other areas that Azim can get through it. So yeah, it will be a good learning experience if that happens to him.
Okay, final prediction for the fight. How do you see it going?
Yeah, as I said, I expect Ohara to have his moments. Yeah, I expect Azim to have to get through the first crisis or couple of crises. in his career before boxing his way to a decision. And as you said, it'll be something well worthy, of the learning process for him. So I'm going with Adam Azim on a points decision.
Points decision, yeah. Okay, so quite a wide points decision in the end, or
not wide. I think he'll be a clear winner. The clear winner, but it will have been competitive.
Sure. Who would you like Adam to fight next? Seeing if he does get through, obviously this fight.
Oh well, I mean, of course, there was always the Dalton Smith fight, but I guess Dalton Smith's now fighting for the European title he vacated. So is he going to want to revisit that now? Listen, maybe with Riyadh season, putting more money up, and we've seen Boxer involved in that. It might be possible. Who else is there? Like I said, 140 is so stacked. Did I need someone like a former world title challenger who's now washed up?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe someone of that level. Your Linares or I don't know. Is Linares too far gone now?
He's retired, isn't he?
Oh, is he? Oh, okay.
He's definitely far too gone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. To fight someone who's experienced, but maybe not as dangerous, maybe.
Yeah, but like I said, the genuine world level at 140.
Yeah.
Forget it. Not yet.
Yeah.
I think step by step. No
yeah,
need
like I said, he's 22, isn't he? And I don't think Boxer are going to risk throwing him with Dalton Smith even next year. To be honest with you, I don't know. Maybe like you said, maybe Riyadh season will chuck a lot of money at it, but I don't know. It's a big risk for one of their stars, isn't it? Really. So they've obviously lost the heavyweight star in Wardley this weekend as well. So, and even Ben Whittaker, obviously. See what happened to him as well. So will they risk another one of their potential stars out there? Looking at the undercard now, Dan Azeez is back fighting, and he's back with the British light heavyweight title against Louis Edmondson at 35. Do you think Dan will ever get that sort of, get back to the top into that sort of mix of light heavyweight fighters?
Oh, listen, I love Dan Azeez, and I really hope.
I think everyone does, don't they? Yeah.
Can he? Well, what you mean, like get potentially another world title shot?
Yeah.
I think it's possible, and I think he'll be credible. I think last time out, the draw against that Croatian guy. I think people underrated the Croatian. I think that guy was actually better than everyone realised. I think Dan can still be very competitive against the sort of lower top 10 ranked guys in some of the governing bodies. I mean, we know that the undisputed champs and Bivol and Beterbiev, we know that they're a quantum leap above everyone else.
Yeah.
But the next crop below that, I think Dan could be competitive against them. He certainly wouldn't. He wouldn't be the worst challenger for a world title if he was to get one of them. Because we saw, for example, Joshua Buatsi is the interim champ, and he was competitive against Joshua. So I think that's a good indication.
Yeah, it could be a fight, couldn't it? Really. So
a lot will depend on what obviously happens between the top two. I guess they're having that rematch, and then
rematch. Yeah.
So.
Sure. And Anthony Yarde is fighting on this undercard. I heard it's just a one-off. Boxer's not signed him as any, as a fighter. I heard it's just a one-off. Obviously, don't think Frank Roman's too. But what do you make of that?
I guess it was sort of on the cards, wasn't it? From what we've been hearing both parties say, reading between the lines, there was obviously something of an acrimonious split between Yarde and Queensberry.
Yeah.
And Boxer, I guess, was the only logical place. The fact that it's a one fight deal, I guess
I understand. Yeah, and looking today on Boxer, I don't think there's an opponent yet, so they're leaving it a bit late.
The whole thing is absolutely baffling. Like, why he would leave Queensberry just as that they're essentially at the height of their promotional power.
With Riyadh season, what they got going with Riyadh season as well, isn't it? Really, so
exactly. And it's not like all the other big fights at light heavyweight are somehow, penned off in some other
unattainable. Yeah,
I mean, Boxer are on board with Riyadh season, so if he wanted that fight with Boazzi, clearly it could still happen. So I think it's baffling, but look,
maybe that's what they're looking at. Maybe again, it could be one of them things they announce after Saturday, perhaps.
Maybe.
It could be one of them ones. All right, we got them. Maybe Boazzi's ringside. I don't know. Just putting it out there. you never know.
That's the only thing that I think can make sense. That maybe the numbers they've told Yarde that he'll get, he thinks it's worth his while, burning his bridges with Queensberry and potentially Riyadh season. But
it's an interesting one. And talking a bit of controversy, we got Shannon Courtney returning on this card as well. She hasn't fought since December 22. What do you think of that?
Yeah, she went way off the radar. But to be fair, as Ebony Bridges pointed out, most of the women now are inactive.
It's just getting the fights, isn't it? Really, it's harder. There's a smaller pool of fighters to choose from, isn't there? Really, so
exactly. And I don't know whether none of them are getting the sort of money they want, but yeah, Courtney. It's not clear what she's been inactive for. Is it because she's injured? I mean, someone like, say, Nina Hughes, she hasn't fought since she lost her title, but you look at her social media, she's still always posting training and saying she's waiting on fight news, whereas Courtney's just posting pictures of herself looking all glam for the...
Well, I was going to say, she's not everyone's cup of tea, is she, really? So being polite.
So, it makes you wonder how serious that she was, but to be fair, she relocated up to Liverpool to go and train with Joe McAnally. That's usually a sign that they are serious. But 2 years out, I mean, the bantamweight division is still interesting. So, let's hope she gets that fight against, your Nina Hugheses, your Sugar Neeks, any of them. It's worth remembering, she is an ex-world champion. So, she does have some pedigree behind her. Yeah,
absolutely. And like I said, there's fights out there to be made as well, isn't there? Really, so which is good for boxer and obviously female boxing as well. So to bring forward for next year anyway. But that's about it for another show. Thanks, Ra, for joining me. Really appreciate you coming on. Great talking to you. Everyone, please support the channel best you can with subscriptions, likes, and comments. See if you agree with Ra's decision there for Azim on points as well. And appreciate your time.
Absolute pleasure. We'll see you at the next one.
Thanks, Ra. Bye-bye.
Street Talk.